easiest things to do for a tailgate party is a build your own sandwich station. You can just make a simple meat and cheese platter. I would suggest 3 or 4 kinds of meat and about 3 cheeses. I here have ham, roast beef, salami, and turkey. And then I've got provolone, Swiss, sharp cheddar, and Havarti with dill. This is our new favorite in the house. It's very creamy and meltable, and it's got just a little more interest with the dill in there. And then you could set out a couple kinds of bread, like a white bread, a wheat bread, a rye bread, or some sandwich rolls, or even the Hawaiian rolls. This is all things I keep in my refrigerator. I'm gonna kick this up a few notches though, because good enough isn't good enough for me. So we're gonna make something fabulous out of our meat and cheese platter. To kick up our meat and cheese platter into some interesting sandwiches, I brought in things I generally have in the pantry or the fridge. I always have pesto, so we're gonna use some pesto. I have tapenade, which is an olive spread. You'll often see it on muffalettas in the New Orleans area. I've got some bruschetta left over from the other night. I've got some mashed avocado, and I mix it with just a little bit of lime juice to keep it from turning brown. I've got a garlic mayo. I just took some mayonnaise, some fresh garlic, minced very finely, and a little bit of Dijon mustard. I've got some lightly sauteed bell peppers that's left from pizza night. I have leftover pizza sauce. I've got some leftover cucumbers. I always have salad ingredients in the house. And then I did make up some bacon. And I've got some mustard. I've got some uncured pancetta that I had in the fridge. It's great for making pasta carbonara, but I'm going to use that for a different purpose. And I've got a little bit of leftover pepperoni from pizza night, and I've also got some leftover caramelized onions, which I'm reheating right now. So we're going to take all these ingredients and make a bunch of different kinds of sandwiches. The focaccia's out of the oven, and I let it cool a bit. I'm cutting into squares now because I'm going to make little mini sandwiches, almost slider size, out of this. So I'm going to go ahead and finish cutting this up, and I'll be back. I'm going to start assembling the sandwiches now. Some of them are going to go onto a sheet pan because they're going to go into the oven, oops, excuse me, to melt the cheese a little. It's still just a bit warm. So the first one I'm going to do is going to be a vegetarian option. And I'm going to start with a little bit of the mashed avocado on one side. And on the other side, I'm going to give them a little bit of the garlic mayo. A few pieces of the bell pepper. Now these are lightly sauteed, but they still have some texture to them. A little bit of the bruschetta, so that's almost like our sliced tomato, but this will stick nicely in the avocado. I'm going to give them a little bit of the caramelized onions. These were done in olive oil. So right now, other than the mayo, this actually could be vegan. If you had a vegan mayo, this would be totally vegan. And then I'm going to give them some cheese. I'm going to give a little Havarti. I'm going to give them a few slices of cucumber. And then a little bit of cheddar. My brother, who's a wonderful bread baker, makes a sandwich he calls a veggie melt, which is similar to this, but you can use zucchini, you can use eggplant, you can use sliced whole tomatoes, whatever you want. So that's all going to go together, and that's going to be one of the ones that goes into the oven and get that cheese to melt. I almost forgot, I wanted to add a little bit of spinach. I have some baby spinach from salad night, and I'm just going to put a little bit of this in there as well. This is actually quite a healthy sandwich, I would say, so we'll just slide that in there, and when it melts, everything's going to come together. The next sandwich I'm going to do is going to be a take on a muffaletta. So I've got the olive spread here, and I'm going to give it a little bit on both sides of the bread. This is salty, a little bit sweet. It's really delicious. I eat it on crackers. Okay. Gonna give it a little bit of ham. And some salami. A little bit of provolone. And I'm going to flip that over so I can get some cheese on the top as well. And maybe a little bit more ham here. I don't want to be chintzy. And that one as well is going to go into the oven. The next option is going to be a pepperoni pizza slider. I've got some pizza sauce left from pizza night. We have pizza just about every weekend. So I'm going to put a little on the bottom and a little on the top. That'll kind of help glue everything together. And then I've got some mozzarella cheese, which I generally have in the fridge. Give that a little sprinkle on each side. And then I've got just a little bit of pepperoni left from pizza night, so this sandwich will definitely have to be for my grandson because he loves May's pepperoni pizza. Well, okay, that's just a little one for him. You could be more generous with the pepperoni, of course, but that's for him. Now I'm going to make my take on a Philly cheesesteak. Now, sometimes you see marinara on Philly cheesesteaks, not always. I'm just putting a little because it'll act as glue for everything else, but it also brings a little extra flavor. Okay, then we're going to get some of the provolone, and I'm going to put provolone on both sides. I want the cheese again also to melt and kind of hold everything together. And then I've got some roast beef. So it's kind of a Philly cheesesteak meets a sausage and peppers, I guess. Some caramelized onions, a little bit of the peppers, and from pizza night in the fridge I discovered I also had some leftover mushrooms. Okay, and then we're going to put that together. Another sandwich for the oven. Another one for the oven is going to be my take on a cubano, or a Cuban pork sandwich. Oh, well, that's one way to get the mustard out. Give me a second to clean up. Sorry about that. All right, so I'm going to give a little mustard on both sides. Now that I want it, I won't get any more out probably. Yeah. Just spread it. Okay, now finding porchetta, which would go great for a cubano in this town, is almost impossible. So I had to punt. Get it? Football party. So I have some uncured pancetta that I crisped up in a pan. This is going to take the place of the pork that you would normally have in here. So it's not going to be completely traditional, but it's quite tasty. And then I'm going to give it some Swiss cheese, which is the traditional cheese for a cubano. Got some sliced dill pickle. And then we need some ham. And then a little bit more cheese. So there's one more for the oven. Now we're going to do some cold sandwiches. You can just prep these up and put them in the fridge. Have them ready to go. The hot ones you could pop into the oven right as your guests get there. So the first one we're going to do is a take on a ham and cheese sandwich. Very basic. Not. Okay, we are going to use pimento cheese. I made this earlier in the day, and I do have a video on this that you can watch on how to make pimento cheese. So, we're going to take some of our pimento cheese, spread it liberally on the bottom, and on the top. Now this could become, a hot sandwich. You could definitely put this in the oven. It would be delicious, but I want that traditional pimento cheese flavor. Every good party has a dip. Here's our dip. We're just using it a different way. And then we've got some of our beautiful ham. A little bit more. And you could give this maybe a little lettuce or a little pickle or whatever you want, but I'm just going to leave that one as is. And I got these cute little picks at the party store. So there's one cold sandwich. Our next sandwich is going to be almost a take on a turkey club. So we are going to take some of our mashed avocado on the bottom. And some of our garlic mayo on the top. Maybe not quite that much. Okay. We're going to get a little spinach. Just a couple of pieces. Okay. We've got our turkey. And I fried up some bacon. Actually, I baked it in the oven, 375 degrees for 15 to 20 minutes, depending on how thick it is. So we're going to give it a little bacon there. And then no club is really complete unless it's got a little bit of tomato, so I'll put a little bit of that here so it sticks to the mayo. It's our bruschetta. And then just flip it on. And cold sandwich number 2, turkey club. An option if you don't have dainty eaters, which football parties, I guess that really isn't common, you can cut these a little bigger and make bigger sandwiches if you want. So this one, I'm going to make it almost like an Italian deli sub. So I'm going to take a little bit of our pesto. Mix that up because the oil always rises to the top. Pesto is one thing I do make from scratch, but I generally keep it in my refrigerator because it's actually less costly to buy this jarred stuff, and if you find the right brand, it's pretty darn good. Alright, so we got a layer of pesto. I'm going to give a little bit of tomato. Okay. give it some provolone. Gonna give it some salami. A couple of slices of that. Gonna give it a little bit of ham. I'm gonna give it some of the Havarti. Some of the beef. This is going to be a hearty sandwich. A piece of cheddar. We're going to give it a little bit of our garlicky mayo. And I'm going to give it a little bit of our peppers. If you had giardiniera in the fridge, that would be wonderful here too. And a little bit of our tapenade. So this sandwich kind of has it all. This is definitely for your heartier eaters. Okay. So that's a larger sandwich. That one definitely needs the toothpick. The last one I'm going to do for the oven is going to be sort of a riff on a grilled cheese. So we're going to start with our pimento cheese. Now you could put other things in here. You could put some vegetables or whatever. I am going to put just a little bit of the peppers because it's going to give it a little crunch. Then I'm going to give it some of the Havarti and some of the cheddar. There is cheddar in the pimento cheese. And then I'm going to do some more on the top. And the reason I put the peppers in there is pimentos are a pepper. So it kind of all ties together. It's still vegetarian. Definitely not vegan because I've got cream cheese and cheddar cheese and Havarti cheese, all that. And you could put a pickle in there. That's what my sister likes, pickle and cheese sandwiches, my baby sister. But this one I'm going to leave as is, and it's going to go on the tray that's going into the oven. Here we have the finished product for the cold sandwiches. I put a few vegetables and pickles on there, so if people want to doctor up their sandwiches a bit, they can. I'll also take along the extra garlic mayo and some of the other condiments. We're taking these over to my son's house, and we're going to heat up the hot sandwiches there.